In terms of family members, this is a really charged question. I don't think most partners are aware of the emotional challenges that are associated with childbirth and are largely unprepared to support the first time mother. I think experienced dads are often a much greater help with second, third, and fourth babies. I think there is a ton more that we could do to help ensure that family members have the skills, but also the awareness to identify and support their partners in healing from pregnancy, birth, and also supporting that transition in early parenthood. I also think there are ways that we could change systems if we really honored and respected the work of mothers and valued it within our society. I think a lot would change systematically to ensure that, for example, dads or partners could have more time off after birth. There would be more social expectation on the involvement of dads in particular in family life, making sure that they are just as good at everything other than the breastfeeding part would be really great. And so those are things that I often work with my clients on beforehand, just trying to talk through, all the things that dads can become experts at to support new moms in the big transition that happens. Like I said before, in terms of that transition, we need to look at mothering the mother, and where we're in situations where extended family is not present, or where perhaps there's been a new move and there's not strong community support. We need to make sure that dads and partners are really well equipped to carry that load. And I think at present, we don't do a good enough job at that. I think we also, within the context of that, need to recognize that dads are also going through a lot of emotional ups and downs through both the pregnancy, but definitely coming out of the birth. There's lots of evidence to say that dads can also experience birth trauma. And so that's where coming together and being able to do, especially as a midwife, being able to do those home visits, check in on how everybody is doing, really answer any questions. Dads are always very interested in, why certain things might have been done, or how to fix things, or how to make things better. And so being able to work with them and kind of explain it, and then working with mom to figure out what it is that she really, really wants or needs from her partner, and being able to position that in a way that the partner is going to uptake and provide the support that she needs is really helpful, and kind of a fun role that I've been able to play in the past. And then I think there was a little add-on, so I'm going to run over time here, but so home care for new mothers is quite interesting. In recent years, there's been a greater uptake and understanding of the role of the postpartum doula. And that's something that for clients who have access to one, often you have to pay privately. Some insurers will cover it though, so it's worth looking into. Postpartum doulas are folks who are trained in infant care, breastfeeding, early postpartum transition, and are people that can come into your home for much longer than midwives come into the home. They don't just do check-in visits, they'll do like full 8, 10, 12, 14-hour shifts. They will do those overnight if people want support through night care. If you have older children, they'll come and take care of the older children so that the moms and babies get to spend some time together bonding in those early days. And so that's something that I highly encourage for clients who can't afford it. Alternately, finding people in your community of support who are willing to come for a time, and expect that when you're attending a new parent, you're not coming to spend time holding a baby, though that's a bonus if it happens, but come in and plan to bring a meal and do the dishes and get the laundry started and just make things nice for that family so that they don't have to worry about those practical aspects as much, because life still goes on even with a new baby in the house. And then in terms of resources, I would say look local, because it's really different depending on country, community, region. There are some global initiatives, and in terms of postpartum, one of the biggest ones that I have seen is La Leche League International. They're the folks who work with moms in communities who build community for new parents and really help with breastfeeding, which is often the biggest or one of the bigger hurdles that happens early on in the postpartum period. But I know, for example, our birth center used to offer all sorts of different groups and just open mornings for parents to come in, and there would usually be a midwife around to be able to support any medical questions or, again, help with breastfeeding, or answer infant care questions. But mostly there was tea and coffee and community, and that is, I would say, by far the most important thing in the postpartum period. All right, so as it relates to my training, I do think this is a little bit different, and this is where doing the master's currently makes a bit of a difference. I know from a Canadian perspective, our training is somewhat different and potentially more sort of conventional in terms of midwifery than other places, certainly in Europe and the UK. Our training is 4 years long. It's a bachelor's degree in midwifery or in health sciences, depending on where you do it. There's a huge focus on continuity of care, and we follow midwives who work within a community-based environment. So usually there's a midwifery practice. We then attend births, and we're privileged to attend births just like physicians are within a hospital environment. Some communities have a birth center, and then all midwives offer home birth as well for families who would like that. Depending on the practice that you work at, home births are usually anywhere between 30 and 40%, sometimes less, sometimes more, depending on whether there's a birth center in that community. So with that in mind, I would say yes, our training did give equal importance to the practical and the human aspects of midwifery and of the huge transition to parenthood that accompanies it. However, I think as Canadian midwives do have a slightly different training program than some midwives in other countries, especially as the medical model has kind of taken over birth and pregnancy and postpartum. So that might be part of the difference. In terms of my actual training, what that looked like is we had a counseling module as part of our degree program that helped us to develop some of the practical skills that you use in identifying different sorts of emotional things that come up, and then also being able to recognize, okay, this is starting to become more than just the normal transitions, and we need to make sure that we get some supports in place for different people, depending on whether they're sliding into cases of postpartum depression or the rare occurrence of postpartum psychosis. So I do think as midwives, we're very fortunate to straddle the medical model and then the more traditional model, and because of that, we're able to find other techniques and spend more time with families and really get to know people, so we can see if there's any sliding into more sort of pathological territory when it comes to postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis.